The massive ships appeared in Earth's sky on a Tuesday morning. Admiral stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the small blue planet through the viewing screen. His 4 arms rested calmly at his sides as he watched the world spin slowly below them. "Sir, we have completed our scans," said Lieutenant K, his voice coming through the translation device attached to his throat. "The planet shows signs of primitive civilization. They have basic space travel, but nothing that could threaten us." Nodded his large, scaled head. He had done this many times before. His fleet had visited 47 worlds in the last 10 years. Most species joined the collective willingly once they saw the benefits. The few that refused were quickly shown the error of their ways. "What do we know about these humans?" he asked. Doctor, the ship's science officer, stepped forward. Her 6 eyes blinked in sequence as she read from her data pad. "They are a young species, Admiral. They have only been using radio waves for about 100 of their years. Their technology is very basic. They still burn fossil fuels and fight wars among themselves." "Wars?" was surprised. "Most intelligent species learned to work together before they reached space. Fighting your own kind was wasteful and stupid." "Yes, sir. Our scans show they have many different groups that fight each other regularly. They spend enormous amounts of resources on weapons designed to kill other humans. It is quite primitive behavior." Shook his head. These humans would definitely benefit from joining the collective. The collective brought peace and order to chaotic worlds like this one. "Their largest space station has maybe 300 people on it," continued. "They have some small ships that can travel to their moon, but nothing more. A few satellites for communication. Nothing that could harm our ships." "Good. Send the standard first contact message. Let them know we come in peace and wish to discuss their integration into the collective." The communication officer worked at his station. After a few minutes he looked up. "Message sent, Admiral. We should receive a response soon." Was not worried about this mission. His fleet had 12 dreadnought ships, each one capable of destroying a continent. The humans had nothing that could even scratch their shields. This would be simple and quick. The response came faster than expected. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the planet's surface." "Put it on screen." The viewing screen changed to show a human female sitting at a desk. She had dark hair and wore a simple black uniform. Behind her, could see other humans working at various stations. "Greetings," the woman said with a calm smile. "I am Director Sarah of the United Earth Defense Council. We received your message about joining your collective." "Director," replied, "I am Admiral of the collective. We are pleased to make contact with your species. We offer you membership in our great union of worlds. You will benefit greatly from our advanced technology and peaceful government." "That's very kind of you," said. Her voice was steady and showed no fear. This was unusual. Most primitive species were either terrified or trying to worship them by this point. "We appreciate the offer. Could we have some time to discuss this among ourselves?" "Of course. How much time do you require?" 72 hours should be enough." Was surprised again. 3 days was a long time for such a simple decision. Most species either said yes immediately or tried to fight right away. "Very well. You have 72 hours to consider our generous offer." "Thank you, Admiral. We'll be in touch." The transmission ended. Stared at the screen for a moment. Something felt different about these humans, but he could not figure out what. "Sir," said Lieutenant K, "should we position the fleet for a show of force? Sometimes primitive species need to see our power before they understand." "Not yet," replied. "Let them have their time to think. 3 days will not change anything." Over the next few hours, the fleet monitored Earth's communications. The humans were definitely talking about the alien arrival, but their conversations were strange. There was no panic in their voices, no desperate calls for military action, no attempts to evacuate their cities. Instead, the humans seemed almost relaxed. "Admiral," Doctor called from her station, "I am seeing some unusual patterns in their communication networks." "What kind of patterns?" "They are using many code words and secret channels, much more than a primitive species should have. They keep mentioning something called Contingency 7 and Neighborhood Watch protocols." "What do you think it means?" "I am not sure, sir, but they seem very organized for a species that fights among itself so much." Frowned. Maybe these humans were more advanced than they appeared, but their scans clearly showed primitive technology. Their ships were slow and clumsy. Their weapons were simple chemical explosives and metal projectiles. They could not possibly threaten the collective fleet. "Keep monitoring," he ordered, "and prepare the standard integration package. When they accept our offer, I want to be ready to begin immediately." The first day passed quietly. Earth's military forces made no aggressive moves. Their space-based weapons systems actually powered down, and their small fleet of military ships moved away from the planet toward their moon. "They are surrendering already," Lieutenant K observed. "This will be even easier than we thought." But was not so sure. In all his years of commanding integration missions, he had never seen a species act like this. Even the most peaceful worlds showed some fear or anxiety when faced with a superior force. These humans seemed completely calm. On the second day, Director contacted them again. "Just wanted to check in," she said with the same pleasant smile. "Everything is going smoothly on our end. We should have an answer for you soon." "Director, are your people not concerned about our presence here?" asked. Tilted her head slightly. "Should we be?" The question caught him off guard. "We have 12 warships in orbit around your planet. Each one carries weapons that could destroy your largest cities." "Yes, we noticed that. Very impressive ships, by the way. Our engineers are quite interested in your propulsion systems." "You are not afraid?" Smile became wider. "Admiral, we've been dealing with much worse problems than a few ships in orbit. Don't worry about us. We've got this." The transmission ended, leaving more confused than ever. What did she mean by much worse problems? What could be worse than facing the full might of the collective fleet? He was beginning to think these humans might not be as primitive as they seemed. The third day arrived with no change in Earth's behavior. Admiral paced back and forth on his bridge, his 4 arms clasped behind his back. In all his years of service, he had never encountered a species that reacted to first contact like this. "Reports," he ordered. "Sir, Earth's activity levels remain normal," Lieutenant K said, reading from his instruments. "Their cities show regular traffic patterns. Their industrial areas are operating at standard capacity. We detect no signs of military buildup or panic." "What about their communication networks?" Doctor looked up from her station. "Still using those coded messages, Admiral. But the strange thing is, their civilian channels seem completely normal. They are broadcasting entertainment programs, news reports, and regular business communications. Some of their news programs are even discussing our arrival, but the humans appear more curious than afraid." "Stop packing, show me." The main screen switched to show a human news broadcast. A human male in a bright blue suit sat behind a desk, speaking to the camera. "And in our top story today, the alien visitors have now been in orbit for 60 hours. President Martinez is expected to make a statement later today about the ongoing discussions. In other news, the weather tomorrow will be sunny with a high of 75 degrees. The broadcast continued with reports about sports games and local festivals. The newsreader mentioned the alien fleet like it was just another ordinary story. "Turn it off," ordered. He could not understand this behavior. When the collective had arrived at other worlds, the entire planet went into emergency mode. Governments fell apart, armies mobilized, people ran screaming in the streets. These humans were planning weekend picnics. "Sir," the communication officer called out, We are receiving another transmission from Director. Put her on screen. The human woman appeared again, still wearing that calm smile. Behind her, other humans moved around normally, as if having an alien fleet in orbit was nothing unusual. "Good morning, Admiral," said pleasantly. "I hope your stay in our solar system has been comfortable." "Director, the 72 hours you requested are almost over. Do you have an answer for us?" "We do," folded her hands on the desk in front of her. "After careful consideration, we have decided to politely decline your invitation to join the collective." Blinked his large eyes in surprise. "You are refusing our offer." "That's correct. Earth will remain independent, thank you." "Director, I do not think you understand the situation. We are offering you protection, technology, and peace. The alternative is unpleasant." His expression did not change. "We understand perfectly, Admiral, but our answer is still no. We hope you can respect our decision." "Do you realize what you are saying? My fleet has the power to destroy your entire civilization." "Yes, we're aware of your capabilities," nodded calmly. "But we must decline. It's nothing personal, of course." Felt his temper rising. How could these primitive creatures be so stubborn? "Director, you have 1 hour to reconsider. After that, we will be forced to demonstrate the consequences of refusing the collective's generous offer." "I understand, Admiral, but our answer will remain the same." The transmission ended. Stared at the blank screen, his mind racing. In 47 previous first contacts, only 3 species had initially refused to join. 2 of them changed their minds after a show of force. The third one was now a lifeless rock orbiting a distant star. "Admiral," Doctor said quietly, "I have been analyzing the human psychological profiles. I believe they may be experiencing collective shock." "Explain." "Some primitive species react to overwhelming situations by shutting down mentally. They cannot process the threat, so their minds protect them by pretending everything is normal. It is a survival mechanism." Lieutenant K nodded. "That would explain their strange behavior. They literally cannot understand how much danger they are in." "Perhaps," said, but he was not convinced. Director had not seemed confused or in shock. She had seemed confident. "Sir, should I prepare for a demonstration strike?" the weapons officer asked. "Yes, target an unpopulated area away from their cities. Something that will get their attention but not cause massive casualties." "Admiral," Doctor interrupted, "I am detecting something unusual." "What now?" "Earth's defense satellites have completely powered down. Their few orbital weapons platforms have gone offline. It appears they have shut down all their space-based defenses." "Are they surrendering?" I do not know, sir. This behavior does not match any pattern in our databases." Considered this new information. Maybe the humans were smarter than he thought. Maybe they realized their weapons could not hurt his ships and decided not to waste energy on useless gestures. "Continue with the demonstration. Target those coordinates Doctor identified earlier, the abandoned military facility." "Yes, sir." The hour passed slowly. Admiral kept expecting another transmission from Earth, a desperate plea for mercy or a frantic offer to negotiate. Instead, the planet remained quiet. When the time limit expired, he gave the order. The collective dreadnought Vengeance moved into position. Its main cannon powered up, gathering energy that could crack a small moon. The weapon fired. A brilliant beam of light shot down from space, striking the abandoned facility in the remote desert area Doctor had selected. The explosion was visible from orbit, creating a crater several miles wide. The surrounding landscape was turned to glass by the intense heat. "Direct hit, Admiral. The target has been completely destroyed." Nodded with satisfaction. Now the humans would understand what they were facing. Their primitive minds might be able to ignore the threat of alien ships in space, but they could not ignore a weapon that could reshape continents. He waited for the panicked response. He expected desperate calls for surrender, or at least some sign that Earth's leaders now understood their situation. Instead, nothing happened. An hour passed, 2 hours, still no response from Earth. "Sir," the communication officer finally said, "we are receiving a transmission from Director." "Finally, put her on screen." Director appeared again. She looked slightly annoyed, like someone who had been interrupted during important work. "Admiral," she said, "was that really necessary?" Stared at her. "Director, we just demonstrated a small portion of our military capability. Do you now understand the situation?" "Oh, we understood the situation from the beginning," shook her head. "But you damaged some archaeological ruins that a few of our researchers were quite fond of. They've been working on that site for years." You are concerned about archaeological ruins?" "Well, yes, those were important historical artifacts. Irreplaceable, really," sighed, "but I suppose what's done is done." Could not speak. He had just unleashed enough firepower to destroy a mountain, and this human was complaining about damaged old buildings. "Director," he managed to say, "that weapon could have targeted one of your cities instead." "Yes, we assumed that was the message you were trying to send." The expression remained calm. "But our answer is still no, Admiral. Earth is not interested in joining your collective." But you saw what our weapons can do." "Yes, quite impressive. Our scientists found the energy output readings very interesting." The transmission ended, leaving staring at the blank screen in complete confusion. These humans made no sense. They should be terrified. They should be begging for mercy. Instead, they seemed almost bored. "Admiral," Doctor said slowly, "I think we may have made a serious error in our assessment of this species." Was beginning to think the same thing. Admiral stood in the center of his bridge, his 4 hands clenched into fists. The humans had shown no reaction to his demonstration of power, none at all. In his 30 years of commanding collective fleets, he had never encountered anything like this. "Admiral," Lieutenant K said carefully, "perhaps we should increase the pressure. Show them what a real attack looks like." "I am beginning to think these humans are not as primitive as our scans suggested," Doctor said from her station. "Their behavior is completely outside normal parameters." Nodded slowly. "Run a full scan of Earth again. Look for anything we might have missed." "Yes, sir." While his science team worked, reviewed everything they knew about humans. The species had developed on a world with harsh weather, dangerous animals, and unstable geology. Most intelligent life evolved on peaceful worlds with mild climates. Humans had fought their way to the top of a food chain filled with creatures that could kill them. "Admiral," Doctor called out, "the new scans show the same results. Basic technology, primitive weapons, simple space travel, but..." "But what?" "There are some readings I cannot explain. Energy signatures that do not match any known technology. They appear to be coming from deep underground in several locations around the planet." "Military bunkers?" "Possibly, but the power levels are much higher than anything their surface technology should be able to produce." Frowned. Underground facilities could explain some of the humans' confidence, but not all of it. Even if they had built shelters, his fleet could crack open the planet's crust if necessary. "Sir," the communication officer interrupted, "incoming transmission from Earth." "Director again." "No, sir. This is coming from a different location. Someone calling himself General Harrison." "Put him on screen." A human male appeared on the viewing screen. He was older than Director, with gray hair and a face marked by many years. He wore a military uniform covered in colorful ribbons and metal decorations. "Admiral," the general said in a gruff voice, "I am General Harrison, commanding officer of Earth's military forces. Director asked me to speak with you about your recent weapons test." "General Harrison, I trust the demonstration was sufficient to show you the futility of resistance." Harrison's expression did not change. "Admiral, I've been a soldier for 40 years. I've seen weapons that can level cities, poison entire regions, and kill millions of people in minutes. Your little light show was impressive but not particularly frightening." Little Light Show could hardly believe what he was hearing. "General, that weapon could destroy your largest city in seconds." "Could it?" Harrison asked calmly. "Well, I suppose we'll have to take your word for that." "You doubt our capabilities." "Oh, I'm sure your weapons work fine on some targets. But Earth isn't like other worlds, Admiral. We've had to deal with much worse threats than a few ships in orbit." There it was again. The same thing Director had said. What worse threats could these humans have faced? They were alone in their solar system. Their species had never encountered hostile aliens before. "General Harrison, what worse threats are you talking about?" Harrison smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. "Admiral, in the last century alone, humans have invented weapons that could destroy all life on our planet 12 times over. We've fought wars that killed tens of millions of our own people. We've created diseases that could wipe out entire continents. And we did all of this to ourselves." Felt a chill run through his body. "You fight wars against your own species with such weapons." "We used to. We got better at it as time went on. Much better." Harrison leaned forward. "Do you know what we learned from all those wars, Admiral?" "What?" "We learned how to kill things that don't want to die." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in silence. Stared at the blank screen, trying to process what he had just heard. "Admiral," Doctor whispered, "I think I understand now. Humans are not like other species. They evolved as predators on a death world. They have been fighting each other with increasingly deadly weapons for thousands of years." So they are not afraid of war, sir. They are afraid of peace." Lieutenant K shook his head. "That makes no sense. War is wasteful and destructive. Peace brings prosperity and growth." "Not for predators," Doctor explained. "Predators need conflict to survive. Without something to fight, they turn on each other. These humans have been sharpening their killing skills for." Considered this information. It was disturbing, but it did not change the facts. Humans might be more dangerous than expected, but they were still using primitive technology. Chemical rockets and metal bullets could not threaten ships protected by energy shields. "Prepare for a full attack," he ordered. "Target all major population centers simultaneously. If these humans want to see real weapons, we will show them." "Sir," the weapons officer said, "that will result in massive casualties, billions of deaths." Then perhaps they should have accepted our generous offer when they had the chance. The collective fleet moved into attack formation. 12 massive dreadnoughts positioned themselves above Earth's largest cities. Their weapon systems powered up, generating enough energy to sterilize continents. "All ships report ready, Admiral." Took a deep breath. Fire. Hundreds of energy beams shot down from space toward Earth's surface. Each beam carried enough power to vaporize a mountain. The combined firepower of the entire fleet focused on the human world below. But something was wrong. The beams slowed down as they approached Earth's atmosphere. Not all at once, but gradually, as if something was absorbing their energy. The brilliant lights that should have reached the surface in seconds began to fade and dim. "What is happening?" demanded. "Sir, the weapons are firing correctly, but something is interfering with them. The energy is being dispersed before it reaches the target." "That is impossible. Their technology cannot stop our weapons." "The readings show massive energy absorption, Admiral, but I cannot identify the source." On the main screen, watched as his fleet's most powerful weapon simply disappeared. The beams faded away like raindrops falling into an ocean. "All weapons have been neutralized, sir. Zero impact on the surface." Doctor was working frantically at her station. "Admiral, I am detecting energy patterns all around Earth that were not there before. It is as if the planet is protected by some kind of defensive field. A shield. Not like any shield we know. This is something completely different. Sir, the communication officer called out. Incoming transmission from director. His heart was beating rapidly as appeared on screen again. She still looked calm, but now there was something else in her expression. Something that might have been amusement. Admiral, she said pleasantly, was that supposed to accomplish something? Your planet, how did you stop our weapons? Oh, that, waved her hand dismissively. Just some basic defensive measures. We've had systems like that in place for years. Basic defensive measures. Those weapons could destroy a moon. Well, they might work on a moon, but Earth is protected. Protected by what? Smile grew wider. Admiral, you keep assuming we're the same as other species you've encountered, but we're not. We've been preparing for visitors like you for a very long time. That is impossible. You are primitive. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Is it? Tilted her head. Are you really sure about that? The transmission ended, and Admiral found himself staring at his own reflection in the blank screen. For the first time in his career, he was genuinely afraid. His most powerful weapons had been completely useless against these humans. What exactly had his fleet encountered? Fear spread through the collective fleet like a disease. Admiral could see it in the faces of his crew. These were experienced soldiers who had conquered dozens of worlds, but now they looked confused and frightened. Admiral, Doctor called out from her station, her voice shaking. I have been analyzing our weapon failure. The energy absorption was not random. Something intelligent was controlling it. What do you mean? The defensive system did not just block our weapons. It studied them, learned from them. Each beam was neutralized more efficiently than the last. Lieutenant K was reviewing tactical data at his station. Sir, I am seeing something else disturbing. Our weapons were not destroyed or deflected. They were absorbed. All that energy went somewhere. Where? I do not know, sir. But if the humans have the ability to capture and store that much power. Did not need him to finish the sentence. If humans could absorb the energy from collective weapons, they could potentially use that same energy against the fleet. Doctor, run a complete analysis of our previous intelligence about this species. Look for anything we missed. Already working on it, Admiral. Her 6 eyes moved rapidly as she processed data. Sir, I am finding several discrepancies in our original assessment. Show me. The main screen changed to display a series of images and data streams. Doctor highlighted various sections as she spoke. First, their space technology. We assumed it was primitive because they use chemical rockets and slow-moving ships, but look at this. She pointed to an image of a human spacecraft. The design is not primitive. It is deliberately simple. These ships are built for efficiency, not speed. So, sir, a species that can build ships designed for specific purposes has reached a much higher level of technological understanding than we realized. They are not using simple technology because they cannot build better. They are using simple technology because it serves their needs. Studied the images. When he looked more carefully, he could see what she meant. The human spacecraft were not crude constructions. They were elegant solutions to specific problems. What else? Their military conflicts. We assumed they were primitive because they fight among themselves, but I have been studying the patterns of their wars. Doctor brought up a new display showing human military history. Admiral, these are not random conflicts between savage tribes. These are carefully planned strategic exercises. You think their wars are training? Look at the progression. Each conflict teaches them new skills, better tactics, more efficient weapons. They are not fighting each other because they are primitive. They are fighting each other because it makes them stronger. Lieutenant K joined the conversation. But sir, that would mean they have been preparing for external threats for generations. How could they know about us? Doctor paused her analysis. That is the most disturbing part. I have been examining their communication patterns from the last 50 years. They have been tracking our movements through their sector for decades. What? Humans have been observing the collective's expansion activities. They know about the worlds we have integrated. They know about our tactics and our technology. Admiral felt cold fear spreading through his chest. Are you saying they have been watching us? Yes, sir, and not just watching, learning. Sir, the communication officer interrupted, we are receiving multiple transmissions from different locations on Earth. How many? Dozens, sir. From cities, military bases, and locations I cannot identify. Put them on screen. The viewing display split into multiple sections, each showing a different human. There was Director, General Harrison, and many others. Men and women of different ages and races, all wearing various uniforms and civilian clothes. They were speaking in different languages, but the translation system made their words clear. Greetings, Admiral, Director said from the center screen. I think it is time we had an honest conversation. Director, what is the meaning of this? You have been operating under several false assumptions about humanity, General Harrison added from another screen. We thought it might be time to correct those misunderstandings. A woman in a white laboratory coat spoke next. My name is Dr. Sarah. I am the director of Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Project. We have been tracking your collective's activities for 43 years. Impossible, whispered. An elderly man in a business suit leaned forward on his screen. Admiral, I am director of the Global Defense Initiative. We know about the 17 species your collective has completely destroyed. We know about your standard integration procedures. We have been preparing for your arrival since 2387. The truth hit Admiral like a physical blow. The humans had not been caught off guard by first contact. They had been expecting it. They had been preparing for it. How, he managed to ask. Director smiled that same calm smile. Admiral, you have been conducting expansion activities in this sector of space for decades. Did you really think no one would notice? Your fleets leave energy signatures. Your integrated worlds send out distress signals before they fall silent. Your activities have been monitored by multiple species. But your technology. Our public technology, Doctor corrected. What you see on the surface is what we want you to see. Our real capabilities are somewhat different. General Harrison leaned back in his chair. Admiral, every species you have encountered so far developed on peaceful worlds. They evolved to cooperate and avoid conflict. When you arrived with superior force, they had no choice but to submit or die. But we are different, Director continued. Humans evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We learned to fight back. We learned to survive. And most importantly, we learned to prepare for threats we had not yet encountered. You are still outnumbered, said desperately. My fleet has 12 dreadnoughts. Your fleet has 12 ships, Director agreed. Would you like to know how many ships Earth has? You have perhaps a dozen spacecraft capable of leaving your atmosphere. The humans on the screen began to smile. Not the pleasant, diplomatic smiles they had been showing before. These were the smiles of predators who had just cornered their prey. Admiral, Doctor said gently, those dozen spacecraft are our public transportation system. Our actual military capabilities are more extensive. But our scans show exactly what we want them to show, General Harrison finished. Admiral, humans have been hiding our true nature from potential enemies for centuries. We are very good at it. Doctor was working frantically at her station. Admiral, I am detecting massive power signatures all around Earth. They were not there before, or they were hidden so well our sensors could not detect them. What kind of power signatures? Ship engines, sir. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Admiral looked back at the screen, where dozens of humans were watching him with patient expressions. "You have been playing with us," he whispered. "Not playing," Director corrected. "Testing. We needed to understand your capabilities, your tactics, and your intentions. Now we do." "And what are your intentions?" General Harrison asked. "Are you going to leave peacefully, or do we need to discuss other options?" For the first time in his career, Admiral was completely out of his depth. He had been hunting what he thought was prey, only to discover he was being hunted in return. "What other options?" he asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. The human smiles grew wider, and Admiral realized that his fleet was in serious trouble. Admiral stared at the screens showing dozens of human faces, all watching him with the calm patience of predators who knew their prey had nowhere to run. His hands were shaking as he gripped the command rail. "Admiral," Doctor called out urgently, "you need to see this." "What now?" "Sir, Earth's surface is changing." Turn to look at the planet below them. At first, everything looked normal. The blue oceans, white clouds, and brown continents appeared exactly as they had before, but then he noticed something impossible. The continents were moving. "That is not possible," Lieutenant K whispered. "Planetary surfaces do not move like that." But they were moving, slowly at first, then faster. What the collective had thought were natural landmasses began to shift and separate. Massive sections of what appeared to be solid ground opened up like flower petals, revealing something underneath. "Admiral," Doctor said in a voice filled with terror, "Earth is not a planet." The blue oceans drained away, showing themselves to be nothing more than a thin layer covering something enormous. The white clouds dissipated, revealing themselves as artificial atmospheric displays. As the fake surface continued to retract, the truth became clear. Earth was a construct, a massive artificial structure that dwarfed even the largest collective ships. What they had thought was a small, primitive world was actually a fortress the size of a moon. "Impossible," breathed. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, his voice cracking with fear, "I am reading massive energy signatures from the structure. Power levels beyond anything in our databases." Director's voice came through the communication system, as calm as ever. "Surprised, Admiral." What is this?" "This is Earth's true form," she explained patiently. "The planet you thought you were threatening is actually our primary defense platform. We built it to look like a natural world to avoid attracting attention from hostile species." "But the cities, the people." "Oh, they're real," General Harrison added from his screen. "Millions of people live and work inside the structure. It's quite comfortable, actually. Much safer than living on an actual planet's surface." Doctor leaned forward on her screen. "Admiral, did you really think a species capable of surviving on a death world would limit itself to one small planet? We began expanding into space centuries ago." As if responding to her words, space around the collective fleet began to shimmer. One by one, massive ships became visible. Not the crude, chemical-powered craft the humans had shown them before, but sleek, deadly-looking vessels that dwarfed the collective dreadnoughts. "Sir," Lieutenant K reported in a terrified whisper, "I count over 3,000 ships. All of them are larger than our biggest vessels." 3,017, to be exact, Director corrected from his screen. "And that's just the fleet stationed in this system." Admiral felt his legs give out. He collapsed into his command chair, staring at the display showing Earth's transformation. The artificial planet had finished retracting its disguise, revealing a massive structure covered in weapon emplacements, docking bays, and defensive installations. "How long?" he managed to ask. "How long have we been watching you?" Director asked. "About 50 years. How long have we been preparing for this meeting? About 40 years. How long have we had fleets capable of destroying your entire collective? About 20 years. "But why the deception?" Because, General Harrison said seriously, we needed to understand what kind of species we were dealing with. We needed to know if you could be reasoned with, or if you were simply predators that had to be eliminated. Doctor nodded. We ran extensive simulations based on your behavior patterns with other species. We knew exactly how you would react to apparent primitive technology and confident resistance. You studied us like laboratory animals, realized. We studied you like potential threats, Director corrected, and we found that you are exactly what we expected, a species that uses superior force to dominate weaker civilizations. The question is, what do we do about that? Admiral looked around his bridge. His crew was staring at the tactical displays in complete horror. The collective fleet, which had seemed so powerful when it arrived, was now completely surrounded by ships that could destroy them without effort. What do you want? He asked. We want you to return to your collective, Director said firmly. We want you to tell them that human space is off limits. We want you to stop destroying species that cannot defend themselves. And if we refuse? The humans on the screen exchanged glances. Director spoke first. Admiral, you have been operating under the assumption that you are the apex predators in this part of space. You assume that superior technology automatically makes you dominant, but you are wrong. What do you mean? You evolved on peaceful worlds, General Harrison explained. You learned to use overwhelming force against weaker opponents, but humans evolved differently. We learned to fight enemies that were bigger, stronger, and more dangerous than we were. We learned to win against impossible odds. Doctor pulled up a display showing the collective's expansion history. Your technique works well against peaceful species that have never experienced real warfare, but it will not work against a species that has been preparing for war since before your ancestors discovered fire. Admiral, Director continued, your collective has integrated 12 species and destroyed 17 others. We have detailed records of all these actions. We know the locations of every world you control. Felt a chill run through him. What are you saying? We are saying that we have been watching all of your territory for years. We have ships stationed near every world in your collective, not just observation posts, full combat fleets. The tactical display on's bridge suddenly lit up with new contacts. Hundreds of human ships appeared throughout collective space, all of them broadcasting identification signals. Sir, Lieutenant K whispered, they have ships at every one of our worlds. They could attack all of our territories simultaneously. Director's expression remained pleasant, but her words were ice cold. Admiral, you came here thinking you were hunting primitive prey. Instead, you discovered that you have been the prey all along. Humanity has been tracking your collective for decades, learning your weaknesses, studying your tactics, and positioning ourselves to eliminate you if necessary. You would commit genocide. We would prevent genocide, General Harrison corrected. Your collective has already committed genocide 17 times. We will not allow it to happen again. So here is our offer, Director said. Return to your territory. Cease all expansion activities. Begin treating the species in your collective as equals instead of slaves. Allow independent observers to monitor your behavior. And if we refuse? Director's smile finally disappeared. Then humanity will do what humanity has always done when faced with an unacceptable threat. We will eliminate it completely. The bridge's flagship was silent except for the sound of frightened breathing. Outside, 3,000 human warships waited for his answer. You have given us no choice. You always had choices, Admiral, Director replied sadly. You could have chosen to contact other species peacefully. You could have chosen to offer true partnership instead of domination. You could have chosen to respect the rights of weaker civilizations. Instead, you chose to be predators. And now you have encountered a species that specializes in hunting predators, General Harrison added. Admiral looked one last time at Earth. The massive fortress construct was slowly rebuilding its planetary disguise, preparing to once again appear as a harmless world to the next species that might stumble across it. "We will return to our territory," he said quietly. "Good choice," Director said, her pleasant smile returning. "Oh, and Admiral, just so you know, this conversation is being broadcast to every world in the collective. Your people will know the truth about what happened here." The transmission ended, leaving Admiral alone with his terrified crew, and the knowledge that the collective's reign of terror was over. As the human fleet parted to allow them passage, gave the order to retreat. For the first time in collective history, a fleet returned home without firing a shot, carrying with them the terrifying knowledge that they had encountered apex predators disguised as innocent prey. Humanity had been right from the beginning. They had indeed got this. They had been handling it long before the collective ever knew Earth existed.